Hi, today I will talk a little about top 10 pinball games on the Amiga. Some of them are great, some less so, and some aren't very good at all. Hopefully you'll find it interesting nonetheless. Anyway, grab a drink, sit comfortably and enjoy the video. Pinball Mania doesn't look bad, and was free with some Amiga packs at the last few years of Machine's life. And sadly, that's pretty much everything good that can be said about it. It's made by Spidersoft, that clearly shouldn't have been making pinball games. The tables are bland and boring, and worst of all, the ball is so heavy that getting it to the top of the table requires either hitting it in mid-air or finding those one or two elusive pixels on the flipper that for whatever reason allow for high-powered hits. It's a shit game if there ever was one. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Pinball. Now that's a mouthful. It has A-OK graphics and sounds, nothing special. It was made by Spidersoft, and when it comes to pinball games, it was just not their cup of tea, whether they knew it or not. And it landed on this 10th spot only, because it was mechanically working, which cannot be said about the previously mentioned title. The ball suffers from both weird physics and even more weird collision detection. On top of that, tables are not only boring, but also vacuum-like empty. There just isn't anything interesting to do on them, but it works. And that's as much as I can say here. Pinball Prelude is built out of 3 tables corresponding to 3 different periods in time: past, present and future. And to be quite honest, while present is an average table at best, past and future are borderline unplayable. The graphics have pre-rendered look that didn't age too well, and often cause the foreground to mix with background, so that it tends to be difficult to say where one ends and the other one starts. Quite honestly, the most interesting part of this game is probably the worst ever in the history of time title screen. It's just plain awful. Interesting idea of multi-screen tables, sometimes scrolling in all 4 directions. Sadly, brought down by empty feeling and incredibly boring design. Additionally, there's no weight to the ball. It seems very floaty and unpredictably moving. Fine for a few quick rounds against friends or just to see as a novelty. Not good enough to be a game that you'll be coming back to, however. Pinball Hazard is generally hated and despised among Amiga fans. I kinda see why, but also the games that came before it on this list are considerably much worse. It's totally playable, and although it doesn't excel at anything, it's not broken per se. Sure, there are some graphical glitches like ball appearing in the middle of the flipper when hit, weird physics and sounds overlapping here and there, but despite all that, it just works, even while being an obvious and disappointing ripoff of Pinball Fantasies. Also, another case of awful title screen. It will be a repeating theme here though, so get used to it. No surprise probably, but yet again we're witnessing a crappy title screen here. Anyway, this game's footage recording is much quieter as I had really annoying sound glitches while recording. byproduct of emulation, obviously. From the get-go, it's pretty obvious that it's another title trying to mimic Pinball Fantasies. For the better part, graphics-wise it's not far off, sounds and music are a bit off and nowhere near Digital Illusion standards, but in the end that's irrelevant. What is important though is gameplay, and truth be told, it's also not great. I mean, it's totally playable, but it's also a little bit off-feeling. The ball is very heavy and it's sometimes difficult to get it to reach those far-off ramps or top of the table. It's a decent game, but not the one you'd remember for years. It's the second best looking game on this list. Only 2 tables, however, and unlike all other games here, it offers only a single player mode, which, when it comes to pinball games, is a serious disappointment. They are, after all, by design multiplayer games. What's the biggest highlight of this one though, is that it's probably the only title that I would consider having true to life ball physics. All in all, it's a very good game and a worthy addition to any Amiga games collection. Also, a last victim of horrible title screen today. First on this list, but last in terms of release date, Digital Illusion's game on the Amiga. And I suppose that this sentence alone spoils a little bit what's to come after. Anyway, technically and graphically it's the most impressive one out of all 3, using the AGA chipset to its full potential, and also a very good game with interesting tables and mechanics, just not as good as the other 2. Still, must have for pinball lovers. Pinball Dreams was first ever pinball released by Digital Illusions on the Amiga. Some also consider it first ever good pinball on the system, but that's debatable. That said, it's definitely the first advanced one, meaning properly copying and simulating real-life tables mechanics and physics. I'd risk saying that Pinball Dreams is a solid baseline, a benchmark that all other pinball games on the Amiga should be compared to. Before I made this video, based on memory alone, I was sure I would make first 3 spots all Digital Illusions games. Slam Tilt is not their game. It seems that I forgot about it, but by replaying all the games it became clear that I was wrong and it deserves this spot. The graphics of this game are by far the best out of all games on this list, no competition really. The sounds and music are okay, but not anything I haven't heard in other games. But the tables and gameplay? Nah, these are both just excellent. Amazing game, losing to the first title on this list only based on my personal preference. And we've finally reached the number 1, Pinball Fantasies. Definitely the best game by Digital Illusions and also my most favorite pinball game ever. Well, at least until Pinball Zen was released years later. Many factors contribute to that. For one, every single table is really good, there's just no weak ones, and they're so cleverly designed that you discover something cool and new even when you play them for hundreds of times. Also, the graphics are pretty decent, clean and not clustered, perfect for quick and frantic gameplay. And finally, music and sound design are in a class of their own, top of the line for the system. A must-have game. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, share and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And if you're feeling especially generous and like what I do, you may consider a small donation, which would help me make more better content and upgrade hardware I work with. Details are in the description below. For me, this is all, so thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.